All right, good morning, and my apologies for not being there this morning, but got this video here for you, and I know both of my classes started this, but if you go to page 8, we're talking about the coffee. And our friend Miss Lena paid $18.96 for 3 pounds of coffee. Okay, so what is the cost per pound for this coffee? We determined that if you take $18.96 and divide it by 3, you get $6.32, and that would be for 1 pound of coffee. Okay, so you can actually just divide, like we did here, $18.96 divided by 3, or you could kind of make it into a proportion like I do have here and say, how do I get from 3 pounds to 1 pound when I set up this proportion with 1896 and 3 pounds? And we would have this here, and you'd say, well, I could divide by 3, and so I could divide by 3 here, and that's another way of looking at it. Regardless, it's called finding the unit rate. In other words, how much does it cost for one item? Okay, finding the unit rate. So I think for letter B, my second period class, I think we found this. Fourth period, just ran out of time. It says, how many pounds of coffee could she buy for $1? Okay, how much could she buy for $1? Well, you have to go with what you know. And yes, we do know this, but I would almost always tell you to go with what the problem gives you, because sometimes we tend to make mistakes. So if it's $18.96 for 3 pounds of coffee, and this is the symbol for pounds. I know some of you look at it as hashtag. And again, if you want to set it up as a proportion, we want it for $1. Okay, $1. So as I look at this, I'm saying, how do I get from $18.96 to $1? Well, you would divide it by $18.96, which means you should be able to take what's on the bottom, the 3 pounds, and divide that also by $18.96. And if you do 3 divided by 18.96, you'll end up with, I think, if I remember correctly, x is equal to 0.15. I should do this on my phone. I think it's 158, maybe. I should have some traveling music here while I'm looking this up. Bring up the calculator. So 3 divided by 18.96 is 0.158 here. Yeah. And if I round it, look next door, 5 or more. So x is going to be 0.16. And how do I label it? How many pounds of coffee? So I could put hashtag, but I will write out LBS, which is an abbreviation for pounds. Don't ask me why, it's an English statement. So then it says, for letter C, what are the independent and dependent variables? So you need to ask yourself, is it the number of pounds of coffee that determine the price, or is it the price that determines the number of pounds of coffee? So as you think about that, I think I tend to lean more in one direction. And for me, the independent variable would tend to be the pounds of coffee. Number of pounds of coffee. And the cost of the coffee would be my dependent. So that would go on the y-axis. However, I think there is a lot that could be said that the cost of the coffee could also determine the number of pounds that you get. So this is another one that it's not a for sure type of thing, one way or the other. So this one definitely is where the variable is not clearly dependent on the other variable. But for me, I feel like this is the way that it would go. Okay. So the two things that I know right now, let's see here. Cost of coffee, pounds of coffee. So we have 3 pounds here, and we have some dollars. So I'm going to say we're going to put every 2 is a pound. So there's 1 pound, here's 2 pounds, and there's not much room. Here's 3, here's 4, and here's 5. And as far as the cost of the coffee, I think I said every 2 units is $5. So that would be 5, that would be 10, that would be 15, 20, and 25. Okay. And the one thing I know for sure is that 3 pounds of coffee cost $18.96, which is right close to 20. So 3 pounds cost $18.96 right there. I know 1 pound of coffee is $6.32. 1 pound is $6.32. Let's see, halfway would be $7.50. 5 and 7.50, 2.5. So 5, 6, 7, maybe somewhere in there. Okay. And we also know that for $1, I get 0.16 pounds of coffee for $1. So that'd be $2.50. There's 1, and that would be 0.16. So somewhere right in there. What else do I know? So anyway, I guess I can use those 3. And if I graph it, it is linear. So the meaning of the slope. Okay? So if you believe it to be like I did, so if X is equal to the number of pounds of coffee, okay, and Y represents the cost of the coffee, then the slope is the change in the cost divided by the change in the pounds of coffee. Okay? Then the slope is the change in Y, and that triangle means change, divided by the change in X, which is going to be the cost of the coffee divided by the number of pounds of coffee. Okay, that is the slope. Okay. So if you have not already, make sure that you are working on this Module 4, Homework 1, Who Has the Best Job? And if you look at page 9 in your book, it goes along with that. So you can use that as kind of your paper to get it finished. And make sure you're really answering the questions. If it says, what calculations did you use? Make sure you tell me and show me by writing down what calculations did you use? How did you come up with your answer? Some of you are just giving me answers and not explaining to me how you got those answers. Okay? And it says test currently scheduled for January 28th. I want to say it's, or January 30th. I want to say it's the 28th, but I could be wrong. All right. So let me go to today's lesson, which is on page, I think it's page 11. Okay, page 11, Megan's Disney Vacation. So the directions here say read the problem, look at the graph, and talk it out with a partner to find these different things. First of all, what does the x-intercept mean? Well, before you can figure out what it means, where is the x-intercept? Okay, what does it mean to be an x-intercept? And then what does it mean for this particular graph? What does the y-intercept mean? What does the slope mean? What is the domain? What are all possible values of x for this particular problem? And what is the range? All possible y values. So read the problem, look at the graph, talk with a partner about these problems. So I'm going to pause here while you do that and come up with your answers. Okay, so you can turn the video, hopefully you turn the video back on. What does the x-intercept mean? All right, the x-intercept is where the graph intersects with the x-axis. So we're talking about this right here. And this is the number of hours traveled. So the x-intercept means that, I'm just looking at my cheat sheet here for a minute. The x-intercept is the number of hours that they traveled to get to Disneyland, which is 10.5 hours. Okay. The y-intercept is the distance that they have left, distance left to travel, and for the y-intercept, that is the distance they have before they even started. Okay? Distance left to travel before starting out. That's what it means, and the actual amount here is 685 miles. Okay, so that's what the y-intercept is. This is what it means, the distance left to travel before starting out. The number of hours that they have traveled, I should say up here, for the entire trip. Because that's why the y amount is 0. There is no more distance to go. They are at 0. So that's why this is 10.5 and 0. Okay. What does the slope mean? The slope here means that they traveled the same scale, the same amount, each time. Okay, so the slope here would be the change in y over the change in x. The change in y is the distance traveled over the change in x over the number of hours. The domain in this case is let's see, domain, that's your x values. The domain would be number of hours traveled. I would say the domain for this would be 0 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to, is it actually 10.5? I just said that and looking at it. I'm going to put that for now. And finally, the range is your y values. And that is going to be 0 is less than or equal to y, which is less than or equal to 685. So that is your range. All right. Ooh, going on. Says page 13. Page 13. Okay. Carol owns a t-shirt company where she both designs and produces t-shirts for local individuals and businesses. She paid $18,000 for a printing machine, and it cost an additional $5 for each t-shirt produced. An equation to model this situation is C is equal to 18,000 plus 5t. What does the y-intercept mean in this context? Okay. What does the y-intercept mean in this context? All right, so if I were to liken this to our linear equation, and I'll pause for a minute so you can think about what is our linear equation. So the linear equation is y equals mx plus b, okay? And if I turn this around, that would be the same as c equals 5t plus 18,000. Well, your y-intercept here is b, so that means my b value here, my y-intercept, is 18,000. Okay, so we're talking about the 18,000 here. So what does that mean in the context of this story? That means before she even started to produce any t-shirts, that she had to pay 18,000. Okay, so let's go up here. Y-intercept mean, it means she paid $18,000 before printing any t-shirts. Okay, so this would be number of t-shirts down here, and this is going to be the cost of printing t-shirts. So the y-intercept, 18,000, even before creating any number of t-shirts, it cost her that much. What does the slope mean here? Okay, if I look at my equation, the slope is 5. Okay, it's the $5. And the slope here is the $5, which is the cost to Carol for printing each t-shirt. Okay, so the slope is the m part, mx plus b, and that's the change in y, the change in cost for the t-shirts divided by the number of t-shirts. So that is basically her cost, her unit cost per t-shirt, per, you can do that backslash t-shirt. Okay. Go to David, click on the link to Desmos. Yes, you will get points. Okay, I don't think I have that set up yet, so let me jump to that and see if I can get this Desmos activity to work. So if you go on to Canvas, and again, if you were absent, whenever I'm absent, go on to Desmos and go to that to work on it. And so you go to today's, and today is what? I don't know. Monday the 13th, I think. Yes. And find that Desmos activity. Now, also just to let you know, I'm not just going to be out today. I am going to be out for the rest of this week. I believe I told you my dad was not doing well, and my mom actually called, and he passed away last night. So I will be out for the rest of this week. You will need to refer to Canvas and work on these problems, and I will try to get these videos up. I expect you to be on your best behavior for the subs and do what I know you should be doing for the rest of this week. And I should be back next Monday. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.